Moving Beyond Passwords with Mobile, sponsored by Entrust. Digital identity is the foundation for granting user access in today's connected enterprise. Dated authentication approaches fall short on both security effectiveness and user experience. The session will present a blueprint for the next-generation passwordless approach to trusted identities that leverages the device that we all hold in our hands. We'll look at the role of mobile in creating more secure, more convenient, multi-purpose trusted identities and explore a variety of use cases where mobile will help you begin your journey to become a passwordless enterprise. Our speaker today is Mike Burns, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Entrust DataCard. Mike leads market development for the Identity Guard authentication platform. Burns has 20 years experience in product management and technology marketing with a focus on identity-based security, mobile and cloud computing. Prior to Entrust, Mike has held a series of marketing leadership roles with CloudLink Technologies, Mitel, and Nortel Networks. He is well-versed in the industry, and today he's going to be sharing his insights with us. With that being said, now I'd like to welcome Mike. Mike, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Terry, and I guess we'll get started with the webinar. So welcome, everybody. As Terry mentioned, today is all about discussing how mobile can really open the doors to streamline and simplify user authentication in your organizations. And not only does it help also to improve security and put controls really in the hands of your users, but we'll see how it can really help to drive down the cost and the complexity of IT security. To kind of just level set and get everybody started on the same plane, I wanted to cover a little bit about identity. Clearly, identity underpins our personal lives, whether it's for travel. You know, we have identities such as passports, or if we're online on the internet doing banking or shopping, we will have usernames and passwords. Sometimes we will use credit cards for online type of purchases, or when we access email or any type of online application, or even in-person application. Accessing your car, accessing your home, you need a form of identity, which in those cases is a key, but clearly identity underpins our personal life in so many different ways. And along with usernames and passwords, we have a variety of things. I mentioned passports, growing interest in things like fingerprints and so forth. Well, clearly identity also underpins our work life. We come into the office in the morning or work from home, and we log into our workstations with our identity, our username, and our passwords. We may have things like smart cards. We have different identities to access maybe file servers or wireless networks. Most of us have building access cards to get into buildings, or with the emergence of cloud applications, we have yet new identities or additional identities, let's say to access something like, Salesforce.com or Google Docs. So clearly identity really underpins everything we do, and the question becomes, well, what's the problem? I mean, identity is fundamental, and it really allows us to embrace so many things. But I think we all can agree that we have too many identities. They're becoming very difficult to manage. Passwords are not only insecure, but we have these more or increasingly complex password rules, and we have to change them more frequently. If we do have some form of other hardware-based authentication, like a smart card or hardware token, they can get lost, or they can break or damage, or the batteries can die, and we often forget them. So it really becomes and is becoming more and more of a challenge for users, and likewise a real challenge for business. When you think of it from an IT perspective, an IT management perspective, there's more and more applications with the enterprise that are popping up that need to be secured with identity. There's more regulatory laws, across many different industries. It's not just, banking or in government organizations. We're seeing regulatory compliance laws pop up across a whole range of vertical markets. And clearly the threat of breaches and attacks on identity are becoming more frequent and more sophisticated. And without going into too much detail, because we all see the news articles, we are, most of us, affected personally by many of the breaches that are occurring out there. And, you know, it used to be, well, I think 2013 was the year of the mega breach, and I'm not sure, 2014, I think, was the year of the super breach or the uber breach. They're not going to stop. Criminals know there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of money to be had by compromising identities. And what's interesting in these examples that I've placed on the board here on the slide is that identity attacks are really starting to target the enterprise, employee identities. And I'll give you a couple of quick examples. In the banking industry, there's still a lot of attacks on consumer accounts, corporate accounts. But the criminals are now going after bank employee credentials, and they're going into the business systems. For example, into the ATM banking system software. They're modifying it. They're planting malware, and then other parts of the criminal gang are going to the ATM kiosk and withdrawing money from the kiosk without, you know, legitimately having money in the bank. We've seen the same in the retail industry, where historically criminals will go and try to compromise individual point-of-sale terminals at each and every store or gas station or what have you. Now what they do is they compromise an employee identity within the retail organization. They go in and plant malware on the point-of-sale system software on the server side, and they push malware out to each endpoint, to each terminal. So the point is that employee identities are becoming increasingly targeted because the rewards are there for criminals. And all industries are at risk. Nobody's immune, whether you're in critical infrastructure, whether you're in high-tech manufacturing or pharmaceuticals or banking or healthcare or retail. The attacks are really across all different vertical markets, all different sectors. So the question becomes, well, how do we move forward? How do we make identity more trustable, something we can rely on, yet, you know, make sure that it's not a huge burden? Because stronger controls are available, but they're not always better. You know, should we introduce more complex passwords? Should we change our passwords every week? Will that solve the problem? It'll certainly make it very difficult, that much more difficult for end users. What about issuing hardware tokens to the masses? You know, well, that can be very expensive depending on your organization, how many employees you have, or if you're a bank or an insurance company and you want to issue hardware tokens to all of your customers. That not only becomes very expensive, it becomes a logistical nightmare to distribute them. And then you have the user experience, where you're forcing your customers to carry around a little piece of plastic and press a button, type in all kinds of extra, you know, digits and key codes when they log in. So it's more secure, but it's very expensive and not usable. So, you know, you have to really look at the equation from a number of factors, from improving security, from reducing costs, from improving the user experience, and moving forward with something that's truly multi-purpose as opposed to a siloed-based approach to authentication. And we believe mobile provides that opportunity. It provides a unique blend of both security and usability. I mean, some of the high-level reasons, first of all, users want to carry them. We all have our mobile devices. They're convenient. They're always in hand. We don't need to be trained how to use them because most of our applications and interactions on mobile behave in a very similar way. We're always connected, and our mobile devices really help support a nice work and personal life balance, right? When I'm at work, I imagine most of you, sometimes your mobile device allows you to keep connected to your friends and your family, to keep in touch, to deal with situations when you're at work. Likewise, when you're at home, you know, having your mobile device allows you to keep connected with work, not so that you're a slave to your desk, but if something urgent comes up, you can deal with it even though you're not in the office. So it provides a lot of advantages, and we've seen that in the adoption of mobile in the enterprise and throughout the whole world in all types of different user communities. And, you know, smartphones are just becoming ubiquitous. And so when we look at the image at the left, we're really seeing how mobile can really start to encompass or replace all sorts of different forms of traditional authentication, like passwords, like grid cards, like QR codes, like smart cards or smart USB tokens or building access cards. A single mobile device with a trusted identity can be a multi-purpose identity to address a whole range of use cases. So the question becomes, well, can we trust mobile? Right? This is a computer in our hands. We know that the computers on our desktops are vulnerable to viruses and malware. What about the mobile device? Well, the architecture of mobile is quite different, and when you peel back the layers, we see that there are many, many powerful native features that help enhance security and make it a suitable platform for a trusted identity. A couple of quick examples. All devices today have device and location attributes. We're able to fingerprint mobile devices quite well. We're able to locate where the device is based on GPS and IP tracking and Wi-Fi tracking. The core architecture of mobile devices has a concept called application sandboxing, where each individual application on the phone is isolated and protected from other applications. So if malware does make it on the phone, other applications are very nicely sandboxed or firewalled from that malware. And when you think about how you get applications onto your mobile device, unless you've rooted your phone or jailbroken your phone, your applications come from an application store, like the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. And applications are thoroughly vetted before they go on those marketplaces, on those stores. So you have a very nice vetting process to really try and verify the integrity and the trustworthiness of applications before downloading them. Mobile devices has a range of cryptography options that can be used in identity. It provides a second channel, an out-of-band channel, something that's different from your computer. We're seeing more and more biometrics, not only for convenience, but again to bring additional layers of security. And what's coming soon, well, it's in a number of different phones and models today, but what we believe will become almost ubiquitous over the next 18 months are something called TEE, or Trusted Execution Environments and Secure Elements. These are hardware-protected or hardware-isolated zones on the phone which allow you to put very sensitive information, a credit card number, an employee identity. So TEEs, or Trusted Execution Environments, are becoming deployed in phones in increasing numbers and really present a great opportunity to have a lot of confidence in the mobile device as a trusted identity. And certainly there's things that you can do to mitigate risks, against lost and stolen phones or jailbroken phones, or, what happens if your employees leave the organization. And so some of the best practices, well, it makes a lot of sense to force PIN protection or biometric access on mobile devices in case they're left behind. Your users should have Find My Phone applications. You should block any jailbroken phone from connecting to your network. Jailbreaking a phone circumvents the native security processes put into that phone. So make sure any type of identity application or MDM platform that you have detects and identifies jailbroken phones. Use technologies like mobile device authentication and mobile device management and secure work partitions. So there's a number of things you can do very easily within the enterprise to just mitigate risks, and then taking advantage of those security features that we discussed on the phone really allow you to have that confidence in mobile as a trusted identity. So what I thought we'd do is take you through some real-world use cases of how your mobile device can provide what we call simply better authentication. I've listed just a few of them here. They're probably some of the more common ones that you see within the enterprise, or if you're in the consumer-facing type of business, like an insurance company or a banking company, what have you. We'll be talking about some use cases there as well. So going around the clock, going around the circle quickly, using your mobile device for physical access, right? Replacing a building access card, for logging into your Windows computers, into your workstations, for providing strong authentication to VPN networks, for federating employee identities to SaaS or cloud-based applications, and using mobile to verify transactions. So there's a whole range of different use cases that can be addressed by mobile. And what we'll do now is go into a few of them. I think I've selected about 4 of them where we can see how the use case actually plays out. So we'll start with VPN authentication, and the reason I chose this one first is it's one of the most common enterprise needs for strong authentication, for strong identities. And today, multi-factor authentication to VPN is quite often handled by hardware tokens. Works. They're quite secure, not very user-friendly. You have to carry those tokens with you. You have a lot of extra keystrokes to authenticate. The IT provisioning is quite complex. When you think about the logistics of distributing hardware tokens, you know, if you have 50 employees and they're all in one location, maybe not too hard, but if you have thousands or tens of thousands of employees or customers, it becomes very difficult to issue these security devices to a very broad user community, and it becomes expensive, and it's really a single-purpose technology. So how can mobile be used for stronger authentication? We call it push authentication. And here's a very simple diagram showing the flow of events. Over on the left-hand side, imagine you're on your computer. Let's just say you're working from home or working from a hotel room if you're traveling, and you open up your VPN client. And in this case, we're just showing Cisco because that's what's available on our on my desktop through our enterprise here. You authenticate to that with username and password, but the next step is very graceful. You immediately get a push notification on your mobile device, and all of us know how to deal with push notifications. We get them throughout the day, whether it's notifications of meeting reminders or a notification that some kind of Facebook or some other social media message. We get notifications all the time. In this case, it's a notification from the authentication server. And when you authenticate and open the application, it basically just says, Mike, are you really trying to authenticate to the VPN network? And with a simple click of the OK button on mobile, I'm now logged into the VPN network on my computer. So no more requirement to carry a hardware token. Very simple user experience. Easy to provision. I mean, my IT department doesn't have to call me down and issue me a hardware token. They don't have to mail it to me. I can just download the application from the App Store and very quickly provision it. Now, in this use case, in this set of screenshots, you see that there is a password involved, and then we go to the mobile device for the second factor. That's unfortunately hard-coded into most VPN servers today when one-time passcodes are used. We're working with the VPN vendors to remove that step because it's not added security, it's just added complexity. But if you use a certificate-based approach, if you're using your mobile device with a certificate, which we provide here or support here as well at Entrust Data Card, then you can totally remove the step of having to enter a password. And let's take a look at that in a second use case. This, instead of a VPN login, it's a web application login. In this case, I've shown logging into online banking. So I can go to my banking website and I enter my username. That could be my chosen name or my bank card number, what have you. But notice there's no password field. I just enter my username and hit enter. And then immediately on my mobile device, I get a notification. I open the notification, it says, Mike, is this really you trying to log into online banking? I click OK, and boom, I'm right into online banking, ready to transfer money, pay my bills, whatever I have to do. So, with web applications which are not shackled with some of the baggage of VPN networks, your users can now, with a single click of a button on their mobile device, log in to any type of web application, whether that's employee-facing or customer-facing or what have you. So let's take a look at a second use case. In this case, it's using the mobile device for physical and logical access. We all have passwords to log into our Windows workstations. We know they're painful to use. Some of us might have smart cards. They tend to be a lot more secure. It starts to move you away from passwords. But they can be expensive to deploy and complex to manage. Probably most of us on the call as well on the webinar have building access cards to get into the building, maybe to get into our offices or a secure area, let's say a server room if you work in IT. Well, I'm not sure if you're aware, but a quick Google search will reveal very significant vulnerabilities with building access cards. They're very easy to clone. We've done, without going into too much detail, we've proven and built prototypes where just walking beside someone within a couple of feet, you can clone their building access card. So what's needed is a solution that's not only more simple to use, but more secure. And we believe that, well, not what we believe, we are transforming mobile devices into what we call multi-purpose virtual smart cards. So how does that work? Well, here's a traditional approach to Windows Smart Card logon with a card. Well, you need to, first of all, enroll a user and issue them a card. You need to have a card reader at the workstation so you can insert the card. So, the process works, it's secure, but it tends to be costly, and the user always requires that card with them. With mobile, the user experience is a lot more simple. Simply by moving into the vicinity of your workstation through Bluetooth connection, your computer recognizes that you're in the area, and it basically reads your identity off your mobile device. And with a simple entry of a 4-digit PIN, you're logged into your Windows workstation. Right? So very convenient auto-detect capabilities. All you need is your mobile device in your purse or your wallet, or not your wallet, your purse or your pocket or your hand. And conversely, the process for logout is just as simple. When it's time to go to a meeting, when it's time to leave your desk for lunchtime or what have you, you pick up your phone and leave your office. And because you're breaking or you're moving out of the proximity of your computer, that Bluetooth connection is severed and your workstation is automatically locked. And I don't know about you, but most organizations have policies around users. Make sure you lock your workstations. And often users forget, right? And that presents a security vulnerability. By using mobile as a virtual smart card, as soon as the employee leaves their office with their phone, they're logged out of their workstation. So very convenient, very secure approach to Windows logon. A very similar use case really is instead of logging on to the Windows workstation, which we call logical access, is using that same mobile device for physical access, for getting into a building. So through something like NFC, near field communications-based communications to the physical access controller, that's the PAC system, your mobile device can replace traditional building access cards. Again, they're convenient, they're always in hand, and they can't be skimmed. They can't be stolen like a traditional building access card. When you put a trusted identity on a mobile device, the underlying technology is rooted in public key infrastructure. It's a certificate-based approach, so it becomes very strong, very, very difficult to compromise. So yet another use case, simply walk up to the door, tap your phone. The reason we make use of NFC in the physical access use case as opposed to Bluetooth, which we looked at on the previous slide for Windows Workstation, is that if a number of people are walking into the building, that Bluetooth connection is going off for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 different users, and so it's difficult to tell, well, which phone and which person am I authenticating. With near-field communications, the proximity is only less than an inch, so you just tap the building turnstile or the reader at the door, and very simple, very convenient way to enter the building. What about using the mobile device to mitigate the risk of fraud? So in this third use case, we'll put it in the context of more of a banking example, but it certainly applies to a number of different use cases and different vertical markets. And we see fraud attacks and compromises on identities and accounts growing in scope and sophistication. And there's a number of reasons for that. There's a lot of things at risk. Customer data, enterprise access to an enterprise system, intellectual property, money, right? A lot of the fraud attacks we see are just stealing money out of people's banks. And malware today can basically what we call ride or exist on top of an authenticated user session. You can have malware on your PC while you're doing online banking, and in the background, silently, it can be modifying transactions without you knowing. So how can we use mobile to verify transactions out of band on a different device than your computer? And here's how the use case looks, right? If you're doing online banking, how do you really know if your desktop is comprised with malware? We've read countless attacks in the real world where people have gone in, they think they're transferring, $5,000 from their checking account, let's say, to their daughter who's away at university, but in the background, that malware is changing that transaction, and instead of $5,000, it's changing it to $20,000, and instead of going to your daughter at university, it's going to some Russian bank account. You just have no way of detecting reliably these man-in-the-browser, these advanced malware attacks. So what can you do? Well, you take that transaction out of band. After you've completed the transaction, or after you've entered the transaction details on your computer, the bank will send a notification out of band to your mobile device. First of all, it establishes a secure connection, one that can't be eavesdropped. And once you authenticate on your mobile device, the transaction details that the bank is just about to execute are displayed on your mobile device. So you look at the transaction and you verify, yes, that's $5,000 that I do intend to transfer to this account. To simply click OK on your mobile device, and the transaction is completed. If in reading the transaction details on your mobile device they're not correct, if it's imagine the scenario, you're on your couch watching television at 8 o'clock at night and your mobile device goes off, a push notification. And it says, Mikey, you're trying to transfer $2,000 to, the electric company in whatever country or whatever city. Well, no, you're not doing online banking. You're watching the program. It's not you. You know that somebody's taken over your account. But because you have mobile to verify transactions in real time, we're putting fraud controls right in the user's hands. It's a very simple, very secure way to protect consumer accounts. Some of our customers have said, we love that solution, it makes a lot of sense, but one of the problems we have is that some of our users don't always have a data connection. They may not have a formal data plan, Wi-Fi may be available, and that can be based on sometimes the country that we're selling into, or just the particular use case. So how do you do this type of transaction verification when there's no data connection, when you can't send a push notification to the phone? Well, in this case, we display an encrypted QR code on the online banking session. And we use the mobile device. We take the scanner built into the application, and we scan the QR code. It decrypts it on mobile. It allows you to view the transaction and make sure it is the transaction that you intend to execute. When you click OK, it generates a one-time passcode, and you can then go back into the computer and type in that passcode and complete the transaction. So a very secure way to verify or sign transactions using a mobile device. There's other ways to do this. You can buy a proprietary transaction signing pocket token. You can issue it to all your customers or all your employees, but they're very expensive and even harder to use than a one-time password token. So mobile really tends to simplify a lot of the processes while keeping security in check. The last use case that I wanted to cover is leveraging mobile for what I call on-the-go approvals. All organizations are trying to improve their business processes. How can we make life simpler? How can we make our employees more efficient? How can we roll out new services to our customers to differentiate from our competitors? Banks are always trying to differentiate from other banks and make banking simpler for their customers. Many processes require digital signatures, though. Right? In the enterprise, a couple of very simple examples are, if I put forward a purchase requisition to spend $20,000 on some kind of marketing tool or marketing campaign, it has to go through a signing process within the enterprise. My boss has to sign it, and often it'll go to a different level in the organization. If I'm submitting an expense report or a traveler requisition, that has to go through an approval process. And so, many things that we do as employees and as customers of an organization require formal digital signatures. And unfortunately, traditional ways to do digital signing have a very poor user experience. We believe mobile can really simplify anywhere, anytime digital signing that will really open the doors for both the enterprise and consumer-facing organizations. So here's how it works. Step one is the transaction originates. That transaction can be a doctor writing a prescription, an electronic prescription on their computer that needs to be signed. It could be a banker offering a credit card or loan to one of their clients. It could be an employee submitting a requisition. And what happens next is when the transaction is originated, it then gets sent to the server, and it's securely then sent to the mobile user. They review that transaction on their mobile device, and if they agree with the transaction and want to approve it, same process. They click the OK button, and that transaction has been digitally signed with a certificate that's been on the mobile device. So when you think about it, it's a very, very interesting way to improve business processes. If you have situations where you have a work team and project teams and different approvers, if one of your very lead approvers is traveling on business and they're at an airport across the country, they can still get that notification in real time on their phone. Look at that transaction, look at the requisition, look at whatever it is, and with a simple click of the OK button on their mobile phone, they approve the transaction and business moves forward. So we've seen a lot of opportunity for business transformation, for making customer-facing processes a lot more simpler. Banks are starting to be interested in using the mobile identity to opt into things like credit card offers. It just makes it so much more convenient and a better user experience at the end of the day. So in summary, I just wanted to, echo that we said that, clearly identity is critical to today's connected enterprise. Unfortunately, the approaches we're using today are really out of date. They fall short when it comes in to user experience, when it comes into the cost and complexity of IT, when it comes into the security in many cases. They just fall short. And, what we've seen is how a mobile-based trusted identity can really allow you to move beyond passwords and not only improve security, but start to transform your business processes. An approach that's more secure, more convenient, and truly multi-purpose. I thought it would be important, we don't want to talk about our companies too much, but in case you're not familiar with Entrust Data Card, we're all about two main things: trusted identities and secure transactions. That is what we do as an organization. We're a privately held company, and we've been around for a while, so we know a lot about security. We know a lot about identity. And we have a worldwide footprint serving the world's largest banks and enterprises and governments, and the teams behind that to support our customers throughout the globe. So with that, we have really come to the conclusion of the presentation part of the webinar. And what I wanted to do is turn it over to Terry and see what kind of questions may have come in during the presentation.
Okay, great. Thanks for the great insights, Mike. And we are going to be taking some questions from the audience. They have started to come in. So let's start off here with, you discussed how native mobile features can help make it secure for corporate IDs. But our company is concerned about malware on the phone. How can you help mitigate this risk?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a fairly common question that we hear. We speak to customers. We're at events and all types of things, and aside from the obvious wow appeal and the user experience, they're saying, well, some of my users, I'm just not sure about the security of the mobile device. And as we talked about quickly, and we could do an entire webinar on the security of mobile, but it really does provide us a very strong architecture to safeguard mobile applications from any malware that may be on the phone. Each individual application is firewalled. But we never say good enough. We never say never. And so the advancements on the mobile technology side continue to evolve. The technology, I briefly talked about things like secure elements and trusted execution environments. These are hardware-based protection of very sensitive information. When I say hardware-based, for some of you in the audience, you might be familiar with technologies like hardware security modules, which have been used in public key infrastructure and certificate-type solutions for many, many, many years. And the reason is that putting something in hardware, protecting it in hardware in a dedicated chip, a dedicated environment, makes it virtually impossible to steal. And we never say never, but hardware security modules have really been the way to secure digital identities. Well, that's what a secure element is. That's what a trusted execution environment is. It's a hardware security module on the mobile device, and that's where the technology is going. It's available today, and it will be continued to be advanced. So organizations like Entrust are working with the phone manufacturers, without going into details. We will be releasing details in the coming months. But we work with them to put our trusted identity onto those hardware-based protective mechanisms. So thank you for that question. It's certainly one on many people's minds.
Okay. This is a simple one. What if my users forget their phones at home? How do they log in?
Yeah, another good one. Personally, I personally don't forget my phone too often. If I do, I go back and pick it up from my home. If I forget my wallet, I can get through the day, but usually my phone's always in hand. But it is a reality for different people, and batteries die as well. I mean, we're doing a lot of things on our mobile device. The phone can die, and well, how do I log into the network or my computer? And it's an important question, and when you look at any type of authentication solution or technology, you want to peel back the layers of the onion and say, well, what about this situation? What about that situation? You need an authentication platform that supports what we call fallback authentication methods. So in the case of forgetting your phone, I come into the office, I forgot my phone. Very easily with an Entrust authentication platform, as a user, I can request a temporary form of authenticator. I can have, for example, an electronic grid card emailed to me. I can have a one-time passcode emailed to me. I can, go and request up to 17 different alternative forms of authentication. So the important question when you deploy a solution, whether it's mobile or any other type of authenticator, make sure you understand the platform beneath that and how it handles all those edge use cases. Is what if I forget this? What if that dies? What if this is lost? What if my user leaves the company? Do I have a better solution, a stronger solution for privileged users like IT administrators or people who work in finance? So very good question. Always make sure you look at the authentication platform beyond the actual authenticator itself and make sure you can support these fallback use cases.
We use hardware tokens today and may consider an approach using mobile to simplify provision and the user experience. But how do we make the transition?
It's another common question. Most of the organizations that we work with, strong authentication or two-factor authentication is not new. They understand it well. In many, many cases, they've had it deployed for a number of years. In this case of this question, hardware tokens. And there's, it's never easy to make a change, to swap out one technology for the other. And the reality is there's no such thing as a flash cut in these situations. You can't transfer or migrate 20,000 users or 10,000 users in the course of a day. It's virtually impossible. So, and the other thing is, you may have already have a sunk cost in those existing hardware tokens. So you don't really want to get rid of them or retire them until the license runs out or the battery dies. So make sure, going back to the platform, like I answered in the previous question, you want an authentication platform that supports co-deployment. So in the case of Entrust, if you say, hey, Entrust, we like what you're doing on mobile, how can we put it into our organization? We get that deployed, but our platform will allow you to use your existing hardware tokens and just convert users by group or as their hardware tokens die, or however way you want to phase users over the course of a month or the course of 6 months. It's very simple to do, and it becomes transparent from the user experience and very simple from the IT side as well.
Okay. Here's another. I work in the banking industry and can see how mobile can help with some security issues. That said, I'm not sure our marketing team will want to ask users to download another mobile application. Is there a way we can leverage our current mobile banking application?
Yes. The quick answer is yes. So, without getting too much into product details at Entrust, our mobile applications, the ones we've kind of viewed the use cases around, are all available from the various app stores like the Apple Store and the Google Play Store and so on. So our customers often will go and download that and empower their users to make use of that mobile identity. But from day one, we also make our product available as a software development kit because, very classic example in the banking industry, they already have an application that they've asked their users to download, a mobile banking application. So why not put the trusted identity into that existing mobile application? Not only is it convenient for the banking customer, the end user, they only have one application to download, one application to update, but it allows the bank to use that identity, that trusted identity that they've put into their mobile banking application for many different use cases. Over time, they can say, well, it's not only to authenticate the user to mobile banking, it's not only to authenticate the user to online banking and to do transaction verification, but maybe I can start using that trusted mobile identity to do some online e-commerce purchases, for stronger, more convenient access to ATM machines or for point-of-sale purchases. So strategically, it makes a lot of sense for organizations who serve customers like banks or retailers, and they have their own mobile app, to put that identity into their own mobile app and start using it for more and more use cases. It becomes very convenient for the customers, and from the banking perspective, that customer becomes very sticky, and it becomes very difficult, or they become disinterested from leaving the bank and moving to somewhere else because this trusted identity is now used for many, many different purposes, and it's allow that client to be very happy. So, yep, SDKs are the way for organizations to build it into their current mobile application.
Okay. How does your solution work with a mobile device management system?
That's a very good question. So we are not, Entrust does not make or develop MDM products. There's a broad number of very well-known organizations who do mobile device management. And we work very closely with them. We view them as strategic partners because the first use case, the more simple use case, is that many enterprises have purchased and deployed an MDM, and so they will make use of that product, that platform, to deploy a trusted identity to the mobile device. So that's the first point of touch with MDMs. Through our partnerships, they will provision a trusted identity to the user's device using their MDM capabilities. But where a lot of these mobile device management companies are going are providing more and more applications on the mobile device to transform that device into what's called the new desktop, the tablet, the iPad or the Android tablet, whatever it is, increasingly becomes the user's access to the corporate network. The laptop, the desktop computer are losing ground, and that tablet is becoming the desktop. Well, when you think of what you're doing on that tablet as an enterprise user, you're logging into your workspaces on your computer network, you're VPNing into the network, you're doing email, you're doing all kinds of different things. So the MDM vendors are saying, well, we need to place a trusted identity on the tablet, on the mobile desktop, and use that identity for secure VPN access, for secure access to web applications, for email signing and encryption. And so that's where the new use cases are going with mobile device management vendors. We've announced some of those. We'll be announcing more. But it's about using their environment as a mobile desktop and using Entrust as the trusted identity on that mobile desktop to securely access any application, any resource outside of that tablet itself. So very good question. Thank you for that question.